a playlist original.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts, Gaius and Jackson. How the hell are you,
Hello,
buddy?
everyone. I'm doing fantastic this week. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well. It was a pretty busy week and a weekend, but still got a lot done and still got some watches
Nice.
into. But it was good. It was
Perfect.
cool. It was cool because we've had you. I mean, you always send me messages lately, or when I post anything about our crazy like day after tomorrow weather that we've been having. So
Yeah.
it was actually nice because on Saturday it was so beautiful out. I mean, it was kind of windy, but it was like perfect, like
Yep.
at least looking at the beach kind of day.
Hmm.
And it was just, so many people were out. We went to like me and my friends grabbed lunch at this place called Vista that was like right on the pier. They were able to sit outside and it was super nice out. I know I saw like we don't get this a lot in LA because we do, but it was like nice to kind of have it not hail or randomly snow or randomly give us a
Yeah,
tornado.
that's what yeah, that's right. That's what I messaged you about was the fucking
Yeah.
tornado, which how close to that to you were that?
So it was
Or
in
was that?
downtown, like near downtown Los Angeles, which is like maybe like 20, 30 minutes, like, depending on traffic. Well,
Okay.
there's always like a lot of traffic, but
Yeah,
it's,
no doubt. I couldn't
uh,
imagine.
but yeah, so I saw that on Deadline first, and then I was like, that
Yeah.
can't be real. And then I like turned on the local news, and there was like people that they had like actual footage of it, and I was like, whoa, what is going on? God, calm
Did it
down.
like do any damage over there? Because I saw footage of the one that happened in Mississippi over the weekend, and like that like destroyed a community. But was anything like
Yeah.
that or
No, so it certainly didn't do that. It did
nothing
cause
like
damage, but it was like, yeah,
right?
it's like, we can never, nothing, we would never, I don't think we ever have anything like that here. So, like, but still, I think for people that live in like
Yeah.
LA, that was like a kind of a shock.
That would have been a crazy, yeah, no thing.
But yeah, but it was a really nice weekend and it was beautiful out. And it was funny too, because like when Owen and I got out of John Wick on Saturday, we saw it at like 10 a.m. because I was like, it's a long movie and like I don't want to like
That's
have
you
it
know
eat
what?
I don't want to have
Yeah,
it eat up the whole day. And we got out and
right.
saw how nice it was out. And like he was gonna like drop me off at home because I didn't know if we had any other plans. And our friends like sent us a message in like our group chat. And they're like, hey, we're all going to Vista. And I was like, all right, let's just go to Hermosa. And I was like,
Nice.
we got out the movie though, like a little after one. I was like, I'm glad we spent this beautiful day for 3 hours in a dark movie theater. I was like, I know, like just kind of, at least we didn't waste the whole day.
It's right. No, it's blinding coming out of a theater like when there's still some daylight left and it's like a
Yeah.
particularly nice day. It's like I don't like that sensation either, but I happened to see John Wick 4. My show time was at 3:40. So by the time I came out around 7, there was still plenty of sun. And
Wow.
yeah, it definitely ate up a big chunk of the afternoon, but man, was it worth it. That
It
was
was, yeah.
quite the
Right.
experience.
The movie. I
What
mean,
are
like,
your,
so
what are
this,
your thoughts on that one?
yeah, guys, this is the part of the show where we talk about what we watch, and this is the big one. So we're just gonna jump right into it.
For
I,
sure.
you know what? The best way I was trying to think of it while watching some of it and some of the scenes, I was like, it really is like almost like a dance, like a symphony, the way some of the action works in those movies. And like even in this one, I was just like, this is like art. And I don't know if people are appreciating it. Like maybe they are, because I mean the reviews are so good for the movie, but like this
Yep.
takes real skill and
By
really,
a lot of people.
so many people deserve so much credit for like making this as authentic as they possibly can. There was this, I mean, when I was like, we were in the theater and I like leaned over to Owen, I was like, we have to stop ignoring whoever did the cinematography for this movie. Like Academy, like pay attention to
Right?
it. Academy, pay attention to
Yes.
it. And like, cause I was like, there were shots that didn't even need to look that good. I was like random like
No,
subway
it
shot. I'm
was
like, whoa, how beautiful that looks. Are you serious? Like, let's pay
and like it's
attention to
just
that.
not what you expect from like an action epic. Or I guess maybe you should now, but like John Wick, all the movies are shot beautifully, but this one in
Yeah.
particular, the cinematography was like a standout for what every facet of that movie was great, but the cinematography was beautiful.
Yeah, I was like, all right, guys, it's okay to nominate John Wick for at least a technical award,
Yeah,
and like,
that's right.
don't pull a Top Gun Maverick or the Northman or the Batman and ignore John Wick Chapter 4's amazing cinematography when it comes to throwing out nominations, because like
One of the
it's a
best looking
beautiful,
movies this
it's a
year, so
beautiful
easily.
looking movie. And like you said, you don't really necessarily expect that from like an action movie because there's so much like detail that's going into like something else, but like, yeah, you could tell that like they have the directors, cinematographers, everyone involved in this movie are so honed in on what this world is, what these characters are, what they want to create for the audience, so that it continues to like raise the bar a bit. And I think that's what the best thing I can say about the fourth one is that like it didn't really stall out. It just really is. It raised the bar again, and you're just like, I mean, I will admit it is a lot of movie. It's long,
Yes.
And
Yep.
there were moments when I felt it, but not in like a oh when it's an over kind of way. But it was like getting
No, no.
you were getting to the point where it's like, all right, I feel like it could be ending soon, hopefully. But it was worth it though. I mean, like I mean that argument was going on a lot on social media and Twitter about like,
Over the
hey, I mean,
length, yeah.
yeah, like feasible to have movies this long? Like, should a movie be a proper like 1 hour and 45 minutes in the perfect world? I guess my argument to that is if it's a really good movie, I honestly don't care how long it is. If you
Right.
feel like it's going to be a detriment to like cut certain things and that might affect the narrative and the flow and all that stuff, like things that you think are, I mean, as a director and editor or writer, like, a lot of those people being involved in all that, like it's your decision to kind of decide like what's going to benefit your film. And if you think trimming something from it is going to hurt it, then by all
Yes.
means, I guess make it as long as you need to.
That's
Now,
if a studio is not breathing down your neck, which I don't
right.
think it
So,
was in this
right. So
case. Yeah.
you always hear about like a lot of studio notes are usually like, yeah, lose like 30 minutes. Like they like
Right.
too long
For no
and-
reason.
for no reason. And and that's always a fight with like sometimes the directors and the studio. Cause like
Yes.
sometimes I forgot what director said it, but like it was something along the lines of like sometimes they don't even offer like constructive criticism as to why you want stuff cut. It's just like it's too long.
Yes.
Like there's like
Okay.
give me a reason about like why do you think it
Right.
slows the movie down, like whatever. And like that's why some directors
Trust your
do hate,
director.
that's why some
Yeah.
like directors hate studio notes.
Understandably.
Studio notes. So I mean, even though you work for a studio, a lot of them are not filmmakers. They've never worked in that kind of
Yeah.
environment. They've never made stuff. So like they're like a
They're
lot of them are, like
administrators.
administrators, money people, and like so
Yeah.
you're telling someone this is their art, this is their livelihood, like what works best, and they're like, man, you've never even made a movie. But I mean,
That is a fantastic point.
but all those things have to come together. I mean, I know that the studio is very important. I'm not like denying that.
Yeah.
I mean,
They got to roll
putting
for sure.
they're putting the movie out there, but like, yeah, I just saw that debate going on, and I with this, I don't, yeah, like I said, I felt it, but like I didn't think it was a detriment to have it as long as it was. Now it's crazy because the director said like it was an hour longer at one point. And
Man.
Owen and I were trying to figure out like what he have in that hour. Like,
Right?
what did he take out? And I couldn't think of like where he could have put more time in. I was like, well, I'm glad you at least cut it an hour because
You know
I don't
what?
know.
I bet you, yeah. If 4 ends up being the last one, like chronologically with John Wick, if
Yeah.
we do end up getting like that box set somewhere down the line with some extended cuts and some extra features, maybe we'll see a little bit of where that footage was lost and where it would have gone into. I'd be interested to know because I don't feel there was a scene wasted in that movie. Nothing felt like it was forced and put in there. Everything was, pushing the story along. So the fact there was a whole other hour cut, like you said, that is pretty crazy. Also, not a spoiler alert, but something to keep an eye out for. Did you stay for, supposedly there's a post-credit scene? I did not know this at the time, foolishly.
So I
did not stay for it.
I knew about it. I asked Owen if he wanted to stay for it, but then I read the night before that the credits were almost 10 minutes long, and I was like, I mean, I was like, I haven't even looked it up yet, but he was like, I'll look it up at home. I was like, yeah, I mean, like 10 minutes is a lot of credits, and like, but I was told in an interview I read, the director said that like they shot in like 5 different countries, so there's so many things to throw into the credits that's why they were so long. But I mean, that's another argument too. Like, do we need post-credit scenes? I mean, I think Marvel definitely popularized that, right? Like that whole like you gotta stay to the end for that little special treat. And God, everyone doesn't need one. I don't even know what this one is. I probably should have looked it up. I was satisfied when I saw that. I would think about it.
Very much so. Me too. And by the time it was over, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get out. We've been here for like 3 hours and 15 minutes, including the pre-show and stuff. So it hadn't even occurred to me that there would be one. But you know what? I'm totally with you on not every movie needs a post-credit scene, which again, shout out to Scream 6 for theirs, because that was just so awesome.
That was funny.
Poking fun exactly at the overuse of post-credit scenes. But I can justify it in like see a big franchise like this that has like multiple entries, and especially where they're planning on developing more. Sure, that doesn't bother me, but I wish I had thought to stay. So if you're hearing this and haven't seen John Wick 4 yet, there is a post-credit scene supposedly, so just a heads up.
So heads up, if you want to stay an extra 10 minutes, more power to you. It was something that because like night before we hung out, friend works at like a bar, so we were like visiting him, and I was like, hey, like just so you know, there's a post-credit scene. He's like, okay, and I was like, but there's 10 minutes worth of credits, so I'm gonna leave this up to you. if you want to stay. He's like, no, I want
Yeah.
to like. He's like, I feel like I won't want to stay for 10 minutes longer, and the movie's already hitting almost
See, I
three
would just
hours.
go on my phone. I wouldn't even really bother me that
Yeah,
honestly.
something like that. I would just. I mean, I'm sorry, Google it. It was. I hadn't thought about it. I was satisfied with everything that I did see,
So
and
was I. I'm not
I'm
that upset.
completely. I mean, what were some big, not maybe moments, characters, like things that you kind of like really like loved or stuck out to you?
I loved there's many action sequences in there. I loved one in particular, the everything that happened at the Osaka Continental in Japan
Yeah,
was like
that
off that
sequence was
big
amazing.
battle
Yeah,
with the high
so
table
good.
forces and like they're like the samurai masks, like the half
Yeah,
kind of samurai masks they were wearing on top of their body armor was awesome. I wish I'd come prepared, but the Japanese actor that is like the manager of the Osaka Continental, like everything to do with him and his fight
yeah,
with Donnie Yen was awesome. So good
yeah,
to see because I've seen him in some other projects. I'm a big fan of his. That was great. I really like. I think they could do something with his daughter, that character. I'd like to see some
yeah.
more of her maybe in the John
I
Wick
felt
universe.
it was cool too to see. That was the one thing I didn't tell Owen that, but I was thinking that when I was watching it, that they gave you just enough of her to be like, all right, I want to see like
Right.
something else involving her. It reminded me a little bit of like, how like Halle Berry didn't really have like a huge part in chapter 3, but it was just enough to be like, all right, if you popped up again, I would be totally okay with it. Like, and that was the same
Exactly.
thing I thought with her too, where I was like, all right, you gave me just enough to be like intrigued and you're cool. So like, would definitely
I
like to see
liked.
more of
Yeah.
you.
I
Totally.
liked how they used like traditional Japanese weaponry, and I mean, definitely there was lots of guns going on in that fight, but you saw lots of like katanas and other bladed weapons and like
Yeah.
bows. None. Oh my god, dude, the nunchuck
Yeah.
sequence when John Wick beating dudes up with
Yeah.
nunchucks, like that was when he windmills that one guy like three times in the head with one, like that was so awesome. That and the other big I mean, there's many. I won't be able to do it justice. I won't touch on everything, but another one is I can't remember like what sort of building he's in. They're in a building and the camera gives you that overhead looking down as he's going room to
That
room.
whole like
It
room.
does it
So
twice.
it was
Yeah, that was
interesting.
badass.
What's interesting about that scene is that like I love that moment, by the way. And in my mind, I was like, this looks like a video game. But normally I would be like, oh, I don't really like that because it looks fake, right? But it didn't really. It was like this like immersive experience a bit,
That
and
was
I was like,
impressive.
continue to show off. I like this. I like everything that you're doing. Like like I think in a different world or different franchise, we were like, oh, look at that little artsy like film school shot. But it was just so
Right.
it was so cool. It was cool. I mean, I can't take
It
it.
was
Can't take
refreshing
anything
because
away.
you see John Wick go toe to toe with literally hundreds of people over the four movies. So to kind
Yeah,
of give us a different perspective on the action from like the top down was a little bit different and refreshing instead of just seeing, not that it's bad to see him take guys out the way that he does, but we have seen it so much that it's like, oh, it's
yeah,
nice to see it from a different angle. I thought that
right.
was a really smart decision. And it goes back up and does it again for another like minute. It was like cool
Yeah,
too.
that was awesome. Oh, and the actor you're referring to, Hiroyuki Sanada, was I looked it up so I would
Yes,
make sure to
thank
shout
you
him out.
very much.
He's been in a lot of stuff, but I think a lot of people will know him from he was on Westworld for a bit, and he played Scorpion in the last Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh
Also
shit, I
pretty
didn't know he was in that.
also pretty decent. I mean, I liked that movie. I know some people didn't. I enjoyed it for what it was.
The recent
I
one from
knew.
a couple years ago.
Yeah, yeah, I liked it. And
I had never seen.
yeah, I don't expect much from like Mortal Kombat. So maybe if you walk in with like expectations like to the floor, you're like, all right, you got me to like surface level, so that's good enough. But yeah, I wanted to shout him out too because he was very good. That whole sequence was amazing. Donnie Yen, I think, is my MVP for this one. He,
Was
I
badass as
mean,
hell.
that guy, like again, too. I mean, not just him, everyone involved, and it was interesting watching the movie after we had that talk about like why this franchise has been so good for action films and like the things that we appreciate seeing, like the wide angles where there's no quick cuts, and there were so many moments and during the fight scenes where it's like they didn't cut it all, and you could just see everything. Like you knew that you were watching the two actors doing it, and not just like cutting quickly to like make sure that you hide the fact that it's not really Keanu, it's not really Donnie Yen or anything like
Right.
that. So I thought having that discussion that we had and then like seeing it again, like once again that they did that and they didn't like there was no changes, like they works best for that franchise and they continue to do that so well. And I was just like, I mean, I don't know how much further you can raise the bar. If I mean, I guess if we get another one, I mean,
A
there's
great
a
point.
there's a big, I mean, I mean, just in case you guys haven't seen it, here's a little bit, here's a spoiler running.
tune out now. Don't ruin it for yourselves if you haven't watched it yet and you're gonna
Yeah,
watch it. Let's just give them that breather. But I know where you're
yeah.
going with this. But yeah,
All right. So hopefully that's enough time, guys.
it's on you now if you're listening.
So I mean, I was surprised that like ended the way it ended. I guess I mean I he died,
So
and I was like, oh, and you know what was interesting though? It was a pretty powerful moment without being too. It wasn't emphasized a lot, where it's like let's make it big and dramatic. How
right.
simple it was kind of what got to me a bit. I was like, oh shit. And I guess like it kind of the movie had been building to that a bit. Like it's certain. I mean, he doesn't really have like a ton of dialogue, guys, but like there are certain things that the character does care about and things that he does say that have some meaning. And when he mentioned the thing about what to put on his plot like earlier in the movie, well, not that much
Yes,
earlier, but like I was like, are they gonna do that? Are they gonna? I was like, no, man.
I know.
We've been talking about like how they might want to make another one. But I commend them for going that route because I think everyone having watched it now is like, is this done? Like, and this is still so good, so it can't be done, right?
Well, that's the thing. I praise them for if that is indeed how it ends, that they go out on a high note. It must be very tempting for a studio to see how much it's making just from the first weekend alone, and to leave that property alone. At least like advancing it chronologically, because we know that we're getting a spin-off and prequel series.
Yeah,
But I am worried, and we know that according to Chad Stahelski, he's not directing any more movies going forward. I really hope they just let the sleeping dog lie. But I am worried seeing how well it's doing financially.
yeah,
And I think that any attempt to continue it forward with him, knowing how it ends and how they left him in four, would just
yeah.
be a colossal mistake and undoing of a great ending. So I
I
really
think
hope we don't see more.
I fully agree with you because I mean we've had this conversation a lot on the podcast in general about like
Yes, yeah.
the studios being like, oh, look at how much money it made. Like they probably feel that way like opening day. They're like, get everyone back in the office so we can talk
Dollar
sequels. Like,
signs and eyes.
right?
Yes.
I if it ends this way, it's beautiful. I mean, it's nice. I mean, it's a nice little cap on like what's been a really good franchise so far. And
Amazing franchise.
and
Rare.
if like if this franchise's goal was to reshape how people do action movies, other people do them, then that's its biggest accomplishment, and that's a pretty high one to have. I mean, I after seeing this one and then just thinking about the franchise as a whole, I don't think anyone's really doing this like this and anymore. And like they need to be. I mean, if that is what if you want your action movie to be successful and believable, this is what you should be doing. And
It is the template, I think, going forward for action movies.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. I just pulled up because I was like wondering like if they will do one, and it says John Wick 4 director Chad Stahelski is thinking Keanu Reeves could be back in a fifth movie. I'm gonna pull up and
Mm-hmm.
see if there's anything. It's funny. Is the first thing the
Mm-hmm.
article talks about is how much money it made over the weekend, which is like probably why they're having this conversation.
Yeah.
And basically the article's like, should we abandon hope of the John Wick quadrilogy becoming having another film in the series, a fifth film? Reeves recently told Entertainment Weekly that he was taking a never say never approach to starring in the fifth Wick. And now this is what the filmmaker has said. He says, look, a 100%
Okay.
honesty. He said, 100% honesty, these things are so fun and challenging and painful and special. If you ask any director in Hollywood if he could direct his own IP, come up with his own ideas, and have some of the best cast members in Hollywood, have some of the best crew want to work with you because they know you're going to do something special. I mean, yeah, who wouldn't want to promote themselves to do that? If think would be a good idea to work with Keanu for the rest of your career, you're crazy. That's nuts. Like, of course, but it's the why. Right now, I don't have a why. I'm just getting my head out of this one. To be honest, maybe 5 months from now, Keanu could be sitting there in that same bar going, "Hey." But right now, we try to leave everything on the table. We could just put it all out there. Everything we've ever wanted to do in a film in a John Wick, we did it with this one. Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
and
Couldn't have said it
that's
better.
that's actually a very honest kind of statement, being like, hey, like everyone that has worked on these movies has said how amazing everyone is to work with, from like from top to bottom, from like the crew to the stars, like everyone that's involved with it, everyone has had like a good time working on these movies. So I understand that almost sentimental reason for wanting to go back and do it. Of course, you can
Yeah.
also work on other projects with these people and like maybe the same crew and like
Yeah.
do something
Maybe
different.
start another universe.
But I also says like he also ended it with, now hopefully we improve and we evolve. Maybe there's going to be a time when we look at each other going, I got an idea. So you could seem like he's like, he's fine with it being if this is it.
Right.
But I guess also,
I'm
I
fine
guess,
with that answer.
yeah, I guess you also can't rule out like if there's real inspiration for another one, and like he could be open to an idea doing it. So, but if it's
Right.
not a great idea, then let this like rest. Let
Yeah. They might run into trouble too, just concerning Keanu. Like there's been an average of like 3 years between movies, and
right,
that would put him. Even if they were to start production tomorrow, I'm sure they wouldn't be able to crank out another one until he was into his 60s. He's what,
yeah,
58 now,
yeah,
59.
something like 58, 59,
So
yeah,
if they are waiting for an idea to come along, and like, that takes a year or two, and then a few years of production, like
yeah,
we might see the end of Keanu's longevity as an action star, at least to the capacity that he's performing in the John Wicks.
yeah.
So I mean, it's got to be sooner or never, I think, hopefully. But I'm totally satisfied with the four that we got. I don't think we're really going to see a series, an action series of this quality for that many movies in a while. Like that is a special series of movies.
I agree. And I guess what's cool about it too is if you, even if you don't do him, it's they clearly have like all these other kind of people they can kind of pick from to like spin off, do whatever they want
That
to
was
do. I mean, if
Yeah,
it's a possibility.
they did themselves a
Uh,
favor. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, and I mean, it's so interesting too because we talked about like that kind of universe building in this franchise, but it's not too big or too out of place. It's just enough where it's like, all right, that person's pretty interesting. Like they give you like almost like a
right,
little bit small doses of these some of these people, and you're like, all right, I want to know more. So I mean,
right.
that's cool too that there's other people that they could kind of focus on, and the fact that I mean, it's crazy. Like the first movie made $43 million. We talked about that before, like, and now we're at a point where there's spin-offs and like a prequel series, and like now Anna de Armas is going to get her shot like with that franchise in
Right.
her own way in the ballerina. So like, it's it's so cool to see where it's come, and like there's a lot of ways they can kind of continue it on if they wanted to without it being like John Wick 5. But
Right.
I mean, I'm cool with them letting it rest though and enjoying the four amazing movies we got uh,
As
from
am
them.
I. Again, thinking of like how much it is expanded beyond the first one, this is one of the rare few series where I'm actually like as on board with the expansion as I am. Like there's so many
Yeah,
like I think of the Star Wars universe, for instance, just comes to mind where I feel it's so bloated and there's so many side shows and movies exploring things that I just don't
yeah,
care about to the point where I feel like it's a what's that
yeah.
word? Just overdone. But
Yeah,
I don't feel that
it's
way with John
overkill.
Wicks. Like I'm on
Yeah,
board. Overkill.
yeah.
Oversaturation. That's what I'm
Also, yeah,
saying.
yeah, it's true too. I mean,
Yeah.
it was so funny. I was like looking at forgot whose Twitter account, but they reposted a story about like how there's a rumor they're going to announce like a few more Star Wars movies on like I guess it's like Star Wars Day, like May the Fourth be with you, whatever
Right.
that day that.
Yes. Thought that was coming up.
They reposted it. They're like, yeah, they're gonna announce 3 new movies, and then 6 months later say they're not getting made. And that kind of is what happens
Yeah.
with Star Wars lately. Like,
That's been the trend.
yeah, but yeah, this is just the right amount of universe building, and it's just it's just intriguing, and I kind of hope to if it's over. I'm interested in seeing what the other phase of Keanu Reeves' career is next. Kind of like, what do you do
Yeah.
now?
Great point.
He we brought it up on that episode, but like almost I think everyone that has like worked with him or has any interactions with him says he's the most likable guy in Hollywood. Like, I have nothing bad to say
Yeah.
about him. So people want to work with him, and he loves movies. He loves making them.
Mhm.
It's just interesting to see like what you do now. Like come on, he's gonna surprise us with like a hard hitting drama next, or like something like completely out of
Dude,
the
I'd be
box.
yeah, I'd be on board with that. I would love to see it, whatever he does next. And no doubt, I'm sure he's very much, re-injected himself into the mainstream, especially like since this series has, come out. And I think that I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if he's had offers even amongst
Yeah,
the John Wick movies. So hopefully, he has some time and some projects that he can kind of take his pick and give us
yeah,
something good. Or I can imagine after a shoot like that, you'd want a little break. That must have been taxing.
yeah.
Like
I
he's
agree.
getting beat the hell up in
Yeah,
that movie. He
he's
takes some
being beat the hell up.
damage, dude.
And I imagine think too, like not only you film the movie and that's a lot of work and it's a lot of I'm sure with this especially just so much detail and training and probably painful physically and maybe a little bit emotionally.
Yeah,
And then when it's about to come out, you're on this like whirlwind like global press tour, like you're with the movie for so long. And I get why
true.
they're like we need to like kind of put it to bed for a minute and kind of let it I like they need to breathe, like it's like well,
Certainly.
yeah, they've been immersed in this for so long that it's like they let's take a moment and like we can enjoy the success of it, and like I'm glad everyone's seeing it and it's doing well. I'm glad they're like taking a beat and not being like, let's rush this out. I mean, I'm sure they're getting messages from Lionsgate to be like, oh, well, if you have any ideas, let us know. Like, I'm sure that's happening.
Yeah, sure they want more.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about its box office success later, but congratulations on the job well done. I mean, I love the movie. Yeah, everything about it, man. I was just like, I was
I have
completely.
nothing bad to say about it.
I couldn't think of anything. I was like, did I not like anyone? No, everyone was great. It's like it's just
The
it's
length
the
didn't
right,
even bother me.
yeah, the
Yeah,
right amount of action. Like too, but it also wasn't overkill. Where it's just like there was stuff that moved the plot along, but like not having to throw an action scene at you every 2 minutes. Like, I think that's what I like about it too, is that they could easily do that and they don't. They like have these like really fucking amazing, gorgeous like action set pieces, and they let you kind of immerse yourself in them, and then like you take a breather, and then you get back to it again later. And I think that's like one of the best things about it, and they really did that.
absolutely.
This one I liked it. I mean,
Moving forward a little bit, but still keeping it Wick related. I've seen a lot of conversation, I'm sure you have too, surrounding the fabled, perhaps soon to come best stunt category at the Oscars. What do you
cheers.
think this movie does for that, or what do you think of that conversation overall?
So I know this is something that they've been trying to fight for a very very long time, because there's been always been that discussion about like they don't get like some of the recognition that they should, because like they are
Certainly
performers
not.
in their own they're performers in their own right. They're not being seen or heard a lot because that's the nature of like the business. Like they're there to like either you know do something that's kind of physically dangerous where you can't have the real actor do it, so like they're in the place of that. And then like if you're doing something like John Wick, like, or any other movie that has like a lot of like these big action fight scenes and there's multiple people in them, then you have multiple stuntmen like doing a lot of this work. It's also very
Yes.
dangerous work on top of that. So like a lot of stuntmen that do it, they're doing it because they love doing it. It's like it's a passion for them, and like
Right.
and it's a skill, and I think it's a skill set that should be awarded by the biggest night in Hollywood. Makes perfect sense to me. I'm surprised it
I think
hasn't
they're
happened a
long
lot sooner.
overdue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think a movie like this, I mean, it should have been the case already, but like I think you see something like this and you realize how essential they are to like making these kind of experiences as real as they can, while also keeping everyone involved safe. Like that's also their job too. It's like they have to also, especially when you're working with talent who's not a stuntman or a stunt woman, like you have
Right.
to like you have to like keep very important players safe. So it's like
That's right.
it's a pretty it's a job that definitely deserves that kind of recognition, and I hope they do get it. I mean, like I said, should have happened a lot sooner, and I hope it does happen. you know I know some people are probably like, well, awards don't mean anything, but when you're in that industry and like your peers are like kind
They
of like,
sure do.
yeah, I think it is important. And it would probably shine a much bigger light on them, even though that should already be the case.
It definitely should be the case. And I think, like I was saying, this movie is definitely like reigniting that conversation, which has not necessarily been dormant, but I don't recall there being such a call for this change at the Academy like I do like since this
Yeah,
movie's come out, or even really since the series. Like this has been said before, but I think it'd be really cool to see like an amendment to the award ceremony in which they recognize, because as far as I understand, there are certain award ceremonies that do
that do.
recognize stunts, but
Yeah.
nothing to the level of the Academy.
Right.
So I think that'd
So
be really cool, and I think
yeah,
it's deserving.
something that's televised, everyone can see it, and like, yeah, they get to come on stage and accept like their award in front of all their
Yeah,
peers,
that'd be
like,
special.
with millions of people watching. Like that's the kind of platform that they deserve. And yeah,
Most certainly.
make it happen.
Yeah,
you have
absolutely.
you have our support. I know we're just little guys, but you have our support for your
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I'd sign.
stuntman category. I'd sign. Yeah, I for sure would.
Absolutely.
So what do you I was trying to present this. How do you want to tackle the news today? Do we go full on TMZ Jonathan Majors, or do we go
Oh
Asteen
my god.
news? I mean,
Yeah, let's talk about Jonathan Majors for a sec. Let's pivot. We'll get to some casting stuff a little bit later, but this is some spicy drama coming out of Hollywood
yeah,
over the weekend for in a terrible time. Not that there's a good time to have these sort of allegations thrown at you, but yeah, not a good time considering this actor's meteoric rise in Hollywood right now. Why don't you tell the listeners, fill them in if they haven't already heard what's going on
yeah.
with
So
Johnny
I mean,
Majors.
everyone knows who Jonathan Majors is right now. I mean, he's been in almost a movie a month. I'm just kidding. Like Seems like it.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
for real though.
Kang and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. He's in Creed 3. Magazine Dreams, I guess they just scheduled that movie like during the fall season, so you could tell they want to like they position it for like Oscar consideration and stuff like that. We normally don't talk about stuff like this on here because it can be a little TMZ-ish and like more gossipy and rumor. There was so much stuff in it that seems like at least I mean, of course, it felt worthy of mentioning it. Of course, we don't know everything that happened, and like this also sparks
keep that in mind for sure.
This sparks a huge debate again about like because he's already losing some ad, like he had a big ad that he was doing, I think for the Army,
United States Marines, right?
Yeah, the Army. And they are pulling that for now. I know there's always like, especially in our industry now, where cancel culture is it's very much exists still, and a lot of these like studios and businesses and companies, all this stuff, they are more prone to act and immediately dismiss before they get all the facts. So I feel bad in that regard because I'm like, we don't know everything.
Right.
But they also seem worthy of a mention because, like we said, this guy is huge right now.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're God, if you're Marvel, if you're like, please, like, I don't. He's positioned to be in so many things, especially.
They must be shouting at the sky right now, like, "Fuck no! Why is this happening right now?"
Yeah. So in case you guys don't know, because it's pretty serious, but it says Jonathan Majors was arraigned on Sunday on several assault and harassment charges, according to the Manhattan DA's office. In the complaint, the unnamed female accuser claims the defendant did strike her about the face with an open hand, causing substantial pain and a laceration behind her ear. She also claims he put his hand on her neck, causing bruising and substantial pain. He was arrested on Saturday in Manhattan in the alleged domestic dispute. He was charged with several counts of assault in the third degree, 3 counts of attempted assault in the third degree, 1 count of aggravated harassment in the second degree, and 1 count harassment in the second degree. And then they said the DA's office says a judge released Majors on his own recognizances and granted a limited order of protection. Now, his attorney says Jonathan Majors is completely innocent and is probably the victim of an altercation with a woman he knows. His criminal defense lawyer also added, "We are quickly gathering and presenting evidence to the district attorney with the expectation that all charges will be dropped imminently." She says there is also video footage from the vehicle where this took place, witness testimony from the driver and onlookers, and 2 written statements from the woman recanting the allegations. So, yeah, there's a lot.
That's news to me. Yeah, so
then, of course, his representative denied it, says he has done nothing wrong. We look forward to clearing his name and clearing all of this up. That's a lot.
That is a lot. I certainly hope that is the case, that it is not, that it's not happening. So too.
One other piece I read too that I didn't see here was that like one of the statements I think his lawyer made was like he was trying to help his female friend who was in a highly like emotional state, almost like they're making it seem that she might have been like possibly trying to hurt herself or like something like that. They were saying he was trying to help more. I mean, but of course, there's her side and then there's his. It's just, hung up over the weekend. And I almost thought like it was like a joke because I was like, this can't be having this guy right now. Then like,
right. It almost seems like destined.
Yeah. Then my phone started blowing with like, just emails from every, because I subscribed to all these publications and stuff. And I was like, nah, this is legit. I mean, legit in the sense that, this person is alleging this happened. But of course, since he's denying him, I really hope that like it does come down to like he didn't do anything wrong and this gets cleared up.
Of course, yeah.
And this is not because
devastating.
It's not because like, oh, we want to see so much more from the guy. I mean, if it's a lie, then like I want like that he deserves to have his name be cleared. And of course,
I mean,
in the days we live in today, man, like the court of public opinion before anything gets resolved is like that is what hurts almost the most because it's like everyone already has making up their minds certain things, and that part is gonna be hard to like
these days.
Oh
these days you're guilty until proven innocent instead of the opposite way. I think that's a rise in social media is like responsible for that, and it sucks. Again, like it sucks if it is the case that it is not true. If it is, then of course give him all the blame. He deserves it.
Right.
It's hard to really even like have an opinion until like more information comes to light and things go the way they go. But just really hoping that is not the case. Not that I'm hoping that this girl made all this stuff up about him either. It's just really not a good situation for him to be in right now, regardless of the outcome. Like that is just such a stain and like such a great, part of his career trajectory right now, and like that just was disheartening.
Yeah, I mean, initially too, like lawyer really getting ahead of this and like putting the narrative out there, like this is a woman that recanted her statement or like what she
Mm,
says he alleged to her. But again, I mean, this all has to be done like so formally, right? I mean, it's still like they have to look into it. They have to,
of
clearly.
course.
I mean, I clearly she had enough visible injuries for them to arrest him. So like,
Yeah, and I think she
not
went
to
out
say
in
that
an
he
ambulance.
right, yeah, too. And so not to say that like, I don't think, I don't know, I don't really don't know, but there was enough probable cause for them to take him into custody. So I mean, I guess I get that.
Right. Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's like it's one of those things where it's like this guy is like on such a meteoric rise and like he's living a Hollywood dream right now, being involved in so many huge projects,
Yeah.
and not just being involved in so many huge projects, but you're also good. Like you're a good actor. People like really
And
have
leading
enjoyed
them. Yeah.
leading them. People have really enjoyed like the work you've been putting in some of these performances and stuff. It's unfortunate. I mean, I guess like I mean, and it sucks because like if you're him, you're like want this to get resolved quickly, but these things kind of can move slowish a little bit. I mean, so
Yeah.
like so now every day we're gonna probably hear different takes on this, and like I hope eventually though what I would like to hear is that like this didn't happen, and maybe this was someone who was going through like a highly emotional state, and maybe she hurt herself, or maybe something. I mean, I don't,
Right.
I just want whatever the truth is. I would like that to come out, and whether it's her truth or
Certainly.
it's his. Yeah, you know what I mean. So that's it's a tough one. I mean, we
Yeah.
went from like a
Tough
few
one.
weeks ago talking about how like crazy busy this guy's been, and now we're talking about this unfortunate incident. That's that's how I guess
Yeah.
how Hollywood is. Hollywood works that way. Man. One minute you're talking about like how like great someone is, and then like a week later you're like, oops, well, gotta backtrack on that.
Yeah, definitely. And like, it feels like every other month we're finding out someone is not who we thought they were. You know what I mean? Which is like just another like nail in that coffin. Which I'm hoping again that is not the case. But it'd be interested to follow the story along as we get more developments. Again, not to sound too TMZ or
Yeah,
anything, but couldn't help it with this one. That was big news.
yeah, and I'm glad Marvel. I don't think they've said anything. It seems like
No, I don't think so either.
I think it might be, and this is just speculation. The wait and see approach. I mean, it can't really, they
Yeah.
pull they pulled the gun, no pun intended, before pretty quickly when they fired James Gunn. After
Nice.
after that,
Yeah.
all those old tweets came out that I mean, of course that he posted, but they were old and different
I think
time,
they've
and
learned that lesson now.
yeah, and they fired him, and I think they quickly realized that and that was that was also a Disney decision. Of course, Disney is runs
Yes.
Marvel,
Yeah.
and so like, so it's but how quickly they had to like walk back on that when especially after he lost that job, and then he got Suicide Squad, and then they were like, okay,
Shit.
everyone has your back on this. You can come back and do that last Guardians movie. So like, yeah, in a time when everyone kind of quick to jump to judgment and conclusions and stuff, I'm glad that they're not just gonna. They have to wait and see what kind of
Yeah. Smart
what happens,
approach.
what happens next.
Yep.
So yeah, hopefully we'll keep you posted. Usually it's funny because like we usually don't talk about stories like this, and I'm not
Right.
not gonna talk about this story, but like it popped up on my phone the stuff about Amanda Bynes, how like she was put on a psychiatric hold last week because she was like walking through the
Yeah, I
streets of
heard
LA naked and stuff, and I was like,
naked.
and so like
God.
I was my mind, I was like, do we want to talk about that? I was like, no, it's like it's a little gossipy. I do feel bad for her, but like
Exactly. I feel like she was chewed up and spit out by the
yeah,
industry, and it kind of like you get the worst of it with her, or
yeah,
she got the worst of the fame and all that stuff, and combined with some other clearly some mental health issues. But
yeah,
yeah, no, it is still interesting, talking piece though for sure. But
yeah,
different. I did read that too. Then I was like, damn, girl,
yeah.
that's tough.
So, I'm gonna oh, this is interesting because it's not like full casting news. They just say he's circling it. I think the big thing about this casting news is that they're also remaking a huge classic. And usually when you hear the words Alfred Hitchcock and remake, I mean, justifiably so, everyone should be a little like taken aback by it. And
Yeah, that is
a lot
bold.
a lot of people were taken aback by the news that Paramount Pictures acquired remake rights to the Alfred Hitchcock classic Vertigo. So the 1958 psychological thriller is considered one of his best, and it's also being announced that Robert Downey Jr. is in talks to take the lead role. As of now, the actor is just producing the project with his wife Susan Downey through their Team Downey production company.
Oh,
Out,
that I did not know.
and Stephen Knight is writing this. Stephen Knight, of course, is known for like Peaky
Yes.
Blinders, and then the week that this news dropped, like Stephen Knight had just like Damon Lindelof had just dropped out of a Star Wars project, and Stephen Knight is now on that project. So like it's a pretty.
Yeah.
I guess it's a good week for Stephen Knight.
Good week for Stephen Knight. Yeah, I did not hear about that Star Wars news. You said David Lindelof dropped out of that Star Wars.
Yeah, he lopped up. Yeah, he dropped out.
Oh, okay.
And been involved with it for a bit, and I mean, like with any Star Wars news, it's always like, oh yeah, so and so's writing it, anything for like a while, and then they dropped out.
How seriously do you take it until
par for the course?
The cameras start shooting. Yeah.
So, Vertigo's a classic. It's my. It's I debate. Okay, it's second or third favorite movie.
Hitchcock, man.
I know, because I love Psycho is number one for me. I love Psycho, so Psycho is number one. Vertigo and like North by Northwest kind of like flip flop on my. We have so many. Well, maybe not so many, but just enough examples of like remaking his stuff where it didn't work. And
fill me in on some. I can only think of the Psycho with Vince Vaughn, the shot by shot remake. That's the only. Yeah, that is, first of all, oh my God, why?
that is
the only Hitchcock remake I can think of.
Rebecca with Armie Hammer and what's the girl's name? That she was in Ham and Tommy. I'm blanking on her name right now, but
Lily Collins.
Pretty popular actress. Let me look her up because I want to make sure. Like,
is it Lily Collins or is it somebody else?
I think that might be your last name. I just want to double check because I also sometimes get her confused with the girl from Emily from Paris on Netflix. So I'm
not even sure who's in that, but yeah, no, I know exactly who you're talking about though. But yeah,
I don't want to totally screw it up. Lily James, there we go.
Lily James.
Yes. So yes, they remade that with Armie Hammer and Lily James.
Okay.
And it's I'm glad you brought up the shot for shot remake of Psycho because that is the prime. That is a prime example that everyone's been using on social media as to why you don't do it.
Right.
Gus Van Sant had the best of intentions, right? He's coming off of Good Will Hunting, like nominated for an Oscar for that. That movie's nominated for Best Picture. It's like one of the best movies of that year, and then probably one of the best movies still, like over 25 years later. It's a really great movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? He was coming off of that heat, and he was like, you know what?
Got a little too big.
I'm going to do a remake of Psycho, but since I'm trying to honor the director's vision, I'm just going to do it shot for shot because I respect his vision and I don't think he did anything that was wrong in that movie. I'm going to add some weird kind of visual effects in certain scenes that don't make a lot of sense, but for the most part, it's going to be shot for shot because that's the best way to do it because you don't want to mess with the classic. What ended up happening with that movie is, you did it shot for shot and it only made the movie look even more inadequate because they're like, the original movie so much better.
Did you think you were gonna do better than Alfred Hitchcock? Like, what was your why when you're making that movie?
Yeah,
I can't understand the rationale behind that at all.
I still can't. I mean, all these many years later, still can't.
No.
Our boy Donnie, who was on the Scream 6 episode, he left a comment on G-Reels, and I actually respect anyone that kind of can go like, hey, let's not just like throw eggs at it just yet. One of the things he pointed out was like, Robert Downey Jr. is Robert Downey Jr. And, good actor. Mm-hmm. And then Stephen Knight's a good writer.
Great writer.
So maybe we should like take a step back and see what they do with it. I don't know. I just think certain movies are sacred, and this is one of them.
I think Alfred's filmography is sacred. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, why touch it?
Yeah,
but
and
to Donnie's credit, sure.
Yeah, and that is the best of intentions, right? You get a really good actor. He's also producing it. Get a really good writer on it.
Like that. Admittedly, I like that.
But I mean, we talk about it on here a lot, guys. Just original ideas would be great. Paramount, you know what I think is Paramount Pictures. I think you've gotten like so big for your britches because you had like a really good like year, 2 years, like of like hit after hit after hit, especially Top Gun Maverick.
They're on fire right now.
Like you made so much money that like losing money on Babylon didn't quite matter because you actually made like you had a lot of hits in the last 2 years.
Yes.
This is like your biggest, boldest move. I mean, I just don't think it should be done. And I know I should probably be more like Donnie and be like, hey, like, let's see what they do with it.
I want to be, but I'm just not.
Yeah, and I'm not
Mm,
sold even with all these people involved. I'm not. Oh, and then also like I mean, I guess they don't have a director yet, so I'm just wondering like who do you get that would be bold enough to like
That's another great
want to
question.
do it because I wouldn't want to touch it if I was the
Nope,
director.
I would happily sit on the sidelines and watch it unfold, but I would not want to be in that chair. That's for sure. I mean, it would be cool to direct like an Alfred Hitchcock movie as like a film student or as somebody that doesn't have a career that wants to try
Right.
your hand, do a
Yeah.
short film interpretation using one of his ideas. That I can get behind, but nothing like to the capacity that we know this is going to be. We know it's going to get a huge budget thrown at it. It's probably going to
Yeah.
have some more talent added into it just to make a movie that's going to be more than likely subpar to the original. But
Yeah.
hey, if it brings more people on to Alfred Hitchcock, maybe like some of the newer gen that hasn't checked
Yeah.
his stuff out yet, I'm all for that. I honestly don't know that I've even seen Vertigo. I've only seen, I haven't, I mean, it's criminal. I haven't seen as much Alfred Hitchcock as I should have. I've seen North by Northwest so fairly recently. Due
Yeah.
for a rewatch of Psycho by now. But yeah, no,
So
I think I got
so
to get
good.
Vertigo in.
Yeah,
Rear
you
Window
definitely
is
should.
awesome. Did they not? Did they make remake Rear Window?
I
Was that
think
was
a
made?
TV. They did a TV movie with Christopher Reeve. Like when after and this was after his accident,
Oh,
so like he had started like trying to get back into acting again, and he was in. It was like I believe if I still know this, I think a TV movie for ABC. It was like on network TV. And then if some people call Disturbia a remake of like Rear Window, it's basically the same
that's a
movie.
great point. Yeah, I forgot about that. That is basically the same movie.
But speaking of the kids, just in case you guys don't know what Vertigo is about, quick little lesson, and you guys should check it out, and then maybe you will understand why you should just let it be and let it be the classic that it is, and don't touch it. James Stewart stars in Vertigo as former police detective named John Scotty Ferguson, who has retired because an incident in the line of duty has caused him to develop acropophobia, an extreme fear of heights, and vertigo, a false sense of rotational movement. Scotty is hired by an acquaintance named Gavin Elster as a private investigator to follow Gavin's wife, Madeline, played by Kim Novak, who is behaving strangely. It's a really, really, I mean, like, it's well acted. Of course, I mean, it's Hitchcock, so there's a lot of attention to detail in that entire
Mm.
production. And unravels in a really interesting way. I mean, I'm due for a rewatch on that movie too. I haven't watched it in a while. That should be a fun thing to do maybe on this show, like do like kind of a director's showcase or something, and like
That would be a
and
super good idea.
that. And I mean, I guess like you said, the only good thing sometimes is when these remakes get announced or they actually happen. It does put people on to the original. So I hope that when this news got out there, that more people were like, let me check that movie out. To see what all the
Right.
fuss is about. Like, why are all these like film nerds so angry on Twitter? Yeah, they don't.
Certainly.
But yeah, I'm not. Yeah, not completely sold. Of course, if you throw a good director at me, I'm like, okay, maybe. Also, they need more casting too. I got to see who they would
Yeah.
surround Robbie Downey Jr. with. I don't think you can make it any better. But more power to you, Paramount Pictures. And I actually do hope for the best. I never want to see
Yeah,
anything fail, but like you set yourself up for failure when you try to like touch a classic like that. I don't know.
I guess I can sort of admire the bravery it would take to kind of like get involved in a project like this, but I'm on
Yeah.
the other, literally on the other, I feel equally as like, I wouldn't say like shame, but like what, I don't know if I would have the word to describe it, but so as much admiration as I'd have for somebody for trying to take that
Yeah.
job, I would also have like, I would say to them like, why wouldn't you go try something else and like use your talent towards an original idea instead of just trying to like piggyback off a greater work. But
I
I don't
agree.
know, remakes have their place in movie and what we do and how we talk about movies. So you know what, I guess they're bound to happen. So I guess all we can do is sit back and watch and see what happens, right?
And by the way, some remakes do work. I'm not saying that
Yeah,
some
true.
do, some really do. And that's why I'm not totally against them because I think there are certain movies that like, hey, it's a good idea, but there could be room for improvement, especially if it's older. Like, but I mean, very few directors have like a perfect filmography, and like especially if you're
Mhm.
gonna go down some of his classics, and that is a big one. That is a very, very, very big one. It's on the
Yeah.
level of Psycho as far as like recognition and like people know about it.
Yes.
I mean, it's a bold move. I mean, especially for
Yeah.
Robbie Downey. I think it's a bold move for Robbie Downey Jr. too. I mean, if that's a lead role he
Well, he
wants to
must
take
have
on,
liked what he saw, assuming
yeah,
there's a
or
script
read
maybe.
what they
He's been
pitched him,
taking
or
great roles lately. Post Marvel MCU, guy's been
yeah.
lining up some juicy roles for himself. So I'll give him
Oh yeah, he's
some
an up
props,
and average good
some
thing.
faith in him.
He's
Yeah,
gonna be in the
dude. I
movie.
think
Yeah,
he'll be
so
like
yeah,
one of the leads. Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, hope for the best. You guys, good luck.
Exactly.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Hope for the best. What's the expression? Expect the worst and pray for the best, or whatever it is. Yeah. Prepare for the worst and pray for the best, or whatever it is. But yeah, we got some other interesting casting news regarding another certain remake that's coming, or I guess now it's more of a legacy sequel.
Legacy sequel.
Yeah, we'll see how this one goes. I am a little conflicted. One of my favorite movies of all time, let alone horror movies, is being remade 50 years to the year this year with The Exorcist being remade by David Gordon Green. I actually looked it up before we started recording. I didn't realize it was coming out in the fall, but October 13th is its release date as of now. And Ellen Burstyn just joined the cast. Or no, not Ellen Burstyn. She's in it, but
she's in it. Yeah, Linda Blair.
Who am I thinking of?
Linda Blair.
Yes,
Yeah,
she's coming back.
Reagan McNeil and The Exorcist. Yeah. The poor young soul that was possessed by a very foul-mouthed demon.
Cool that they're both back in the movie, though. Like, on board for that, I guess. If one of them's going to be back.
When this got announced, I was more on board because I'm glad they made it a point to let us know that Ellen Burstyn was going to be reprising her role from the first movie. She played Reagan's mother in the original. And then Linda Blair, when they announced this, Linda Blair went to Twitter and, because they didn't announce her being in it, she said that they even contact her about it. And I think some horror fans were a little hurt that they didn't at least throw her something. I mean, it's such an iconic role, right? And this girl, I mean, Linda Blair had a lot of ups and downs because of The Exorcist. All I've read and seen about the movie is, yes, everyone came out of it very proud of it, and it's a really good movie. Of course, I can't imagine seeing it back then and just that visceral reaction to everything that you're seeing in that, because even by today's standards, there's stuff in that movie where I just still wide-eyed, oh god, I can't believe they did that.
Still makes me squirm in some parts. Yeah.
She was a child, making a very adult movie. This was also during a time when there are a lot of cut corners on films back then. She probably went through a lot being that young, filming something like that she's kind of been open about. And then of course she got nominated for an Academy Award for the movie for Best Supporting Actress, and Ellen Burstyn got nominated for Best Actress. But there was a lot of debate then about okay, how much of that performance is her, because the thing is, she's saying the lines when she's possessed. She is saying all the lines. There's actually behind the scenes footage of her actually doing the lines, so she is acting the part. But of course, they get someone else the voice of the demon is someone else and dubbed over to so she can sound demonic and sound evil. There are some detractors, I guess, or how much of that is actually her. But I mean, she still physically put herself in a very hellish place, to play that part. And
yes,
and I wouldn't take. I'm trying today. I wouldn't take away any of the good work she did in that movie. I mean, I think it's a really solid performance, regardless. So I was surprised when they announced it, and that she said they didn't reach out to her because she's, I mean, in a lot of ways, I mean, I guess that movie has different faces for it, but you think of her all the time. I mean, are you either you think of her or the silhouette shot of the priest walking up to the house, which is on the poster and it's on the
one of my favorite shots in cinema, man.
Yeah, you think about that, or you think about her. I mean, I would say you think about her more than Ellen Burstyn, and that's not a dig or anything to take away from Ellen Burstyn.
No, not at all. She's just the subject of the movie.
Yeah. So I was surprised. The thing is, though, they did break the story. I think the studio is trying to keep her involvement in it kind of a secret, because the people that broke the story said that she was only on for a few days, so it's not a huge part. It might just be a cameo thing.
Okay.
But people that broke the story reached out to the studio and they said that she was a consultant on the film and they wouldn't elaborate further, so they might just be trying to keep it a secret and not to, because they've already wrapped shooting, so it's already shot, it's done. One of the guys on G Reels made a good point. They messaged me and said I kind of got the idea that maybe they always wanted to have her involved but didn't want to announce it until it got closer to filming wrapping up and all that stuff. I think they kind of want to do their best to keep it under wraps. I would hope that David Gordon Green and everyone involved in that movie at least reached out to her in the beginning. I guess they did, because she did release that statement saying they didn't. I mean, maybe they learned the error of their ways when they saw how it she reacted to it. She wished them luck on their movie, but you could tell that she was maybe a little hurt that they didn't reach out to her. And then of course horror fans were how are you gonna do a legacy
What
sequel
the
to The
hell?
Exorcist and not involve her? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Admittedly, I was
yeah,
very surprised because I just to my own detriment. I mean, that really matters. I'm just this is another one. I will see it. I have no doubt because I love The Exorcist so much. It's just not a movie that I'm like that excited for, especially just considering how the Halloween requel series ended and being the same guy making this.
yeah,
Granted, it's a different project. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit, but
yeah,
I just kind of assumed I haven't been following news on it that much. I knew as much that Ellen Burstyn was in it, but I just kind of assumed Linda Blair was also coming back because to me, I was just so surprised that Chris, like Ellen Burstyn's character, would come back and
right,
Linda Blair's character would not. Like, I don't know what you're gonna do with Ellen Burstyn's character and not have Linda Blair involved. That just doesn't make any sense. She was the one that's possessed in the movie. What is the mom of the possessed girl gonna do without her
right,
daughter there? Like, just didn't make any sense to me. So
yeah.
seeing that she was cast, I was like, oh shit, like was this not news months ago that I'm just seeing now? So, but anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, interesting news to say the least.
it's interesting too because like I guess the one angle they, of course, we don't know. We haven't read the script. We haven't seen the movie. I guess the one angle of like using
Yeah,
Ellen Burstyn, it's like, oh, like she's gone through this. Of course, she went through it with her daughter, though. I mean, like her daughter. I mean, this was someone that was like physically inside of her, the daughter of her body, like her daughter's body. Like it was
that's
her
what I'm
possession,
saying. Yeah,
story, right?
yeah,
I don't I can imagine not having Linda Blair involved in some capacity because like we said, she is the face of that movie, and
exactly.
now she's also the face of the Exorcist 2, which is really awful. It's really really bad. You know what? Speaking of
I
that
gotta see the
franchise,
third though.
I mean, reminds me of like Hellraiser a bit, where it's like, and some of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's like, God, there's like one really 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 good one, and then the rest of them are just like, like I mean,
That's the
Exorcist
case
3.
of most horror
Yeah,
franchises, if you ask me.
The Exorcist 3 has some interesting moments, and it's kind of an interesting movie, but it doesn't come close to the original. But I think it's actually not bad.
No,
For the most part, though, like that franchise is like all over the place, and especially the second one.
mm,
Is If you haven't seen the second one, I mean, you
I've
just
not.
haven't
I've
seen
only
it.
seen the first.
You just have to see it just to see how bad it is, and then maybe you can like mystery. Maybe you can like Mystery Science 3000 if like Cam, you guys like make fun of with each other because it's like so
Yeah,
bad. It's like so. I don't know how you went from making that awesome movie that got nominated for Oscars and then made
right.
Exorcist 2 The Heretic, and then that turned out to be like a train wreck, and it's so bad.
I can only assume that William Friedkin and William Peter Blatty weren't involved at all, were they?
Let me. I
Can't
want to
imagine.
double check just
I
to make
can't
sure.
imagine they were. So there is another movie in the Exorcist series that Paul Schrader either wrote or directed or both, like Exorcist Dominion, which I do have on DVD, and I meant to watch this Halloween. I might
Yeah,
watch the third and Dominion in anticipation for the sequel or
yeah.
the requel rather, because I'm interested in catching. Those are the only ones I've heard that are like actually worth watching beyond the first one. I gotta go make sure though who did Dominion because I think Schrader he's involved in some capacity.
Is that the one where they kind of like it's split like so they did like Exorcist the beginning and then Dominion prequel to the Exorcist, and
Exactly. Paul
yeah,
Schrader did direct it.
yeah, right. And his was the more like Dominion's a little bit more cerebral and not as like it was a battle with the studio about what they wanted from movies. It was like more action horror, possession oriented kind of thing, and like Minion, what they wanted to go for was like they wanted something more cerebral, and like again we talked about this earlier with like studios kind of getting in the way. They're like, no, the people don't want cerebral. They want like
Yeah.
more demon action,
Right.
Oh yeah, that is. I've actually haven't seen that in so long. I don't even remember a lot of it, but I do remember
Came out in
it being.
2005, which I'm
Yeah,
surprised about.
I do remember it being like better than Exorcist the beginning, which is movie the studio wanted, which is the more like kind of horror, like
Oh,
more kind of stuff. Uh, and yes, I just want to back to your point. They were not involved in Exorcist 2: The Heretic. John Borman
okay.
directed it, and John Borman and Richard Utter John Borman. Yes, also William Goodart came up with the story. William Peter Blatty was involved with the Exorcist 3, which could be why that is like a pretty decent one. Uh, but yeah, Extras 2 The Heretic is I think no one really I probably were like I mean Linda Blair, she said, she came back because the first one did so much for her career and like,
Hmm.
it's such a game changer of a movie. I think from the beginning though, they realized that wasn't going to she's been kind of they're like,
Oh,
yeah, it was not gonna be what the first one was. It's unfortunate, but man, dude, you get some good laughs because it's so bad.
I'm
It's so,
surprised to hear John Borman did that. Deliverance, did he not? Like the same that John Borman.
I mean, look at, hold on. Just want to
I'm
make
looking
sure.
it up here too. Like this is not who I expected
Yeah,
you to say
yeah,
did that. That is
yeah.
what the
1972.
hell, dude. Deliverance is
1972.
awesome.
And then he strolled
Yeah.
in 1977 and like, it's like,
Oh
man.
my god, sucks.
And you know what? It's funny too because like I saw this. You put this in our calendar for like theme shows, and you mentioned David Gordon Green and like the whole Halloween thing. Like,
Yes.
you know, why is he involved in this too? Because it's
Who's giving
interesting
them
that
these
all these
horror titles, man?
dude.
But anyway,
So we can like we could probably have a whole episode about that sequel series of
we
Halloween movies.
should. We
Uh,
should.
you know, I'll just this is really short, really small. I respect what he did with it overall because he did try to take it back to the roots of like making it close to what the original 1978 film was and like making it scary
Yep.
again, the style and all that. You know, a lot of people go back and forth about Halloween Ends. I was fine with it because at least it did something different from like they didn't go the route that everyone wanted them to go, and they knew they were going to get like a very polarizing response, and of course did. I actually
Yeah.
I actually rewatched Halloween Kills recently. That movie doesn't get as much credit as it probably should. I mean, I know it's not as like cerebral and like as more of a story driven as like 2018 movie,
Right.
but for
Michael goes
sheer
on for that
for
movie.
sheer like fucking violence and just like going for it, it's a pretty fun movie. Like it's not like
That's what I liked about it.
yeah, it's not
And
bad
the
by any means.
sequence, yeah.
Yeah.
The sequence where
It-
they go back to the 70s and
oh,
film it like
that
it's
was
directly
amazing.
after. That was awesome. Other than that, the story in that movie falls flat for me, but I bet I'd enjoy it more on rewatch too, just to watch
Yeah.
Michael kill 60 people.
It's just like I mean I knew I was in. I was also a fun opening night movie to see. I went to a press screening and saw it
Mhm.
first, and of course it was like old, kind of old and stuffy, and it wasn't like as fun. Opening night, I
Right.
mean, there's that whole sequence where he attacks the car, and like Kyle Richards is there, like the girl that was in the original movie that Lindsay she babysat in
Yeah.
the movie. That whole sequence is so good, but people die in such crazy ways. When he kicked the car door and that girl got shot, the nurse got shot in the face. I was like, and
Yes.
the whole crowd just went crazy. I was like, all right, I'm picking up what you're putting down. This is fun. Like you just want to go.
That was all right.
And it also, it's called Halloween Kills, so I kind of figured it was just gonna be. That's what they wanted. They wanted it to be the angry one, the really violent one. Like,
Yes.
he
They accomplished
was like,
that at least.
I'm pretty mad about what you did to me in the first movie, and like, you know, I enjoyed it overall. And but
Right.
I am a little. I mean, he said he's approaching the Exorcist much differently than Halloween, as he should, because
Okay.
there are different types of
Yeah.
horror movies. And you know,
Well, that's good news.
but I mean, the thing is, I think Peacock and Universal are working together on this, where the first movie is going to come out in theaters and be associated with Peacock. It will be in theaters and on streaming, and then the next, because
Okay.
they're making it a
A hybrid
trilogy.
approach.
Yeah, so then the follow up movies, the second and third movie are going to be Peacock like exclusive, so they're going to be strictly for the streaming platform. I wonder if you change your mind. I guess you can't really change your mind if it does well because they're like, no, this is what you agreed to and signed up for. But like, I kind of
We'll see
wish
what
it
the
was
box
going.
office numbers say first.
I mean, it's a good release date. October is perfect.
Oh yeah,
October
that's
13th
when
is
you got to
perfect.
put it out for sure.
Do it a couple weeks before Halloween so you can take advantage of that business. For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no Halloween movies out to compete with this year, so
Yeah.
that is a good idea.
Yeah, but I am looking
can't
at
help
it
but
with a
feel
side eye though. I'm looking at it with a side eye though, because original is so good.
exactly.
And I was mentioning this to Owen because there was a preview for the Pope's Exorcist when we went to go see John Wick.
Oh,
And I
right.
I kind of leaned over to him and I was like, "Oh, it's just so hard to like do demonic possessions movie justice because you have this one really bright, amazing example, and it's hard to top that. So all of them just kind of
Yeah,
look
I
like
don't know if it has been topped in 50
yeah,
years. I don't think there's been a better possession movie.
like there's some that I think are good, but not definitely not better. Like I like the Exorcism of
Certainly
Emily
good
Rose.
ones.
Yeah, the Exorcism of Emily Rose is decent. There's the one oh god, what am I thinking of? Oh god, Eli Roth
The
was involved
autopsy
in
of
it.
Jane Doe.
Was it The Last Possession or something like that? That one was
He
like
did what's
almost
called The Last Possession, yeah.
Possession. Yeah, that one's pretty decent. But for the most part, it's you get the same kind of visual cues that you get in all of them. Never someone is possessed by the devil in these movies.
I guess
like
The Conjuring would be the only one that
another
really
one
holds up.
yeah, it's hard to top The Exorcist. It's like the granddaddy of all of them.
And to make it original, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I'm glad
Um,
she's back. I'm glad she's back in some capacity. It's good for her. It's good for
Yeah,
horror
that's
fans.
good. Definitely.
I just hope it's good. I mean, with
I
the
can't help but feel that by announcing a trilogy before the first one's even come out, like putting the cart before the horse, and I just think it's rare that we see that ends up being a good idea. Like the first one, if it gets bad critical reception and no one sees it,
yeah,
why even say that you're going to make three? Anyway, we'll see how it goes. But again, three, I don't know that anybody's asking for a sequel trilogy to The Exorcist. One is, consider one, but
yeah,
I guess again, I'll give it. I'll at least go see it, and I'm sure around Halloween time we'll be talking about our experience watching it. Glad that they're putting it in theaters at least, and not just making it direct to streaming. So that's a
yeah.
bonus.
Wait, what were we saying recently? I think on here where it's like, why can't you just like out to one movie? And now it's like, yeah, a movie and two sequels and a TV show and a
Yeah,
spinoff, like all in like one day. And you're like, oh, you're announcing all that
right.
before anything comes out. like
We
like
were talking. I think that was related to Star
oh,
Wars. We were
right.
talking about that a couple weeks ago.
Like the
Creed,
Creed,
yes,
the
it was
Creed,
Creed.
yeah, with the whole
Yes,
universe,
it
and you're
was
just
Creed.
like,
Three shows in another movie.
yeah, like
Yeah,
just announce a sequel. Just like fine with that.
cart
Oh,
before
and
the horse.
now they did say that this Exorcist is a direct sequel to the original movie, but they said that they're not like ignoring the other installments either. I don't know how you do that. You're just
I
putting
don't know if that makes any sense.
like I don't know if it's just like they exist in the universe, but like the story that they're picking up from is the story that took place
Okay.
in like 1974. So I know so I mean that was a big topic of debate when they did that with Halloween when like they're I knew the reason they were doing that because everyone considers the 78 movie the great one and then the sequels are if you're horror fans you love aspects of them but they're not as good as the first movie.
They're not good overall. No,
Right. So I got the idea of
I
being like we'll ignore all those and then just focus on
I
the
commend
within.
that decision. I think that was an interesting move, and it worked out in Halloween's favor for sure.
Yeah, but then there's people like me, I fuck with Halloween 4. It's still fun. It's not great, but it's
Right,
still fun. Like I don't
right.
like completely ignore it. I like Danielle Harris. Everyone likes Jamie Lloyd. Like she's like the second final girl of that franchise that like over than Jamie Lee Curtis, uh, who is still butthurt that they still haven't called her back to do another one of these after she was in like because she was in
Oh,
like she was in 4 and 5 and her character's in 6 but there was like an issue over pay and like a bunch of other stuff and that's why she didn't come back for that. And then of course like a lot of horror fans, the best thing that Rob Zombie did and not the only good thing to me
mm,
was when he cast her as Annie. That was a cool callback for like Halloween fans.
oh, I did
Yeah,
not know that.
yes.
I
So that was
didn't. I have a soft spot for Rob Zombie's Halloween movies. Not gonna lie, I actually hold the first one in good regard. That's a conversation sometime.
Conversation too, man. But I will say that like the cast her because it was a cool thing for fans to be like, oh, that he got her back into that franchise and gave her like a pretty decent role, and she had like some stuff to do, and like brought her back for that second one that's awful too. Uh, it's so bad. But yeah,
That
like
one's definitely worse.
it's so bad. But yeah, I mean, there are fans of like some of these sequels. I'm sure I know I made fun of The Exorcist too. I'm sure someone out there likes it. That's like don't. I'm sure like there's always like someone that like likes like the third movie or the fourth one, like or they grew up with it, or like it's not
Right.
like so. Like I don't know how I feel sometimes about ignoring complete film's history when you're making another sequel. It kind of sucks for the people involved with those movies who like they worked hard on them to just be like, yeah, we're gonna
Mm,
disregard all of those. They don't
yeah,
exist as timeline. I mean,
that's right. Yeah, I've never. This is only the second example of this that I can even like remember happening. Or there
yeah,
might be more, but Halloween was the first time I'd ever heard of this approach of disregarding the other sequels. I think if an Exorcist movie is going to be remade or there's going to be a requel, I'm on board with that approach. I would like to see David Gordon Green maybe stay away from horror or try original horror after this because
yeah,
I mean we've just gotten so many horror remakes. This is just one I didn't expect we'd ever see. I don't, maybe that's just naive of me, but anyway, only a few
yeah,
months away. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a trailer sometime over the summer or maybe
probably.
sometime soon.
So like, so you
Probably coming
definitely
out.
so like seeing his name attached to this, you get like a little side eye, like I mean,
Gave me some ick vibes. Yeah, I was like, fuck.
like can we like can't someone else do it or do not do it at all? I don't know,
Oh
but
yeah, well, exactly. But I like gave me some restored faith here that he says that he's going to approach it differently than he did with the Halloweens. So you know what? In fact, it's being made. I'm sure I'll go see it, and if it's bad, I will let people know.
yeah, cool.
It's
I
always
guess
always good to rewatch the first one. So
yeah, and that's the same thing we were talking about with the Vertigo thing, right? Like you hear this kind of news, and it's like, all right, well, let me revisit that original classic movie. And I guess in the case of this, it's like let me revisit like the original Exorcist. Like you visit the whole franchise to see like what kind of went wrong, what didn't work, why they weren't they able to kind of recapture that magic again. You know where they did recapture it though, and it sucks because it was like a short-lived series, but they had an Exorcist TV show on Fox for 2 seasons.
Oh, you're right.
Season one is,
Forgot
and
about that.
I like season two, but season one is really well done. That's where I say that they got like continuing that story right. It was like perfect for like episodic television to kind of do a show like that,
Okay.
and and not rush it as a film. It got to kind of breathe a little bit as a show, and it was really really well done. I think you can find it somewhere streaming. I'll link that one just in case, because a lot of people I know do love they loved it on Fridays on Fox, which is like kind of like a death slot for a lot of TV shows, especially when it aired. But they were
Hmm.
so happy with it creatively that they did give it a season two, and
Hmm.
it's really well done. So if you ever like, I mean, I know we have to watch like so much stuff, but if you ever run across it, it's a really well done show. I think you would like that
And you said
more
it was
so
on
than
Fox, the
it was.
network that
Yeah,
did it?
yeah, it was on Fox. Yeah, Gia Davis was the
Okay.
star.
Well,
Yeah, it was really well done and shot
they
well. It
gave
was a
us Sons
beautiful.
of Anarchy, so
Yeah,
I
and like
put some
it
faith
was.
into that network.
Yeah, it was also like shot well. It was a beautiful show. Like for a TV show, like network show, like they were like I feel like they were shooting it as if it were a film every episode. That's what like it looks like. So
Okay.
yeah, so I just wish they didn't throw it to Friday night, so they probably didn't know what it would do until it was too late. They're like, oh, people do. It had like a very small but devoted following. So
Interesting. Okay,
if you
I'll
do
keep an
run
eye open for that. You're the only person I know that has anything to say about it that has seen it. So interesting.
for sure, definitely cool too because season one and season two are like they're different stories. So like you don't have to. It's not like a completely like yeah focus on one narrative. So you could watch one, and if you don't want to do season two, you would still have a completed like story at the end of
Okay,
season one that close things out. But yeah,
cool.
definitely look it up if you can. It's a pretty good one. I guess casting news today. Not like
Yes.
huge casting. It's not huge casting news, but I mean it's still kind of fun. Uh, 15 years after starring in The Incredible Hulk, Liv Tyler is making her return to Marvel Studios, and because she has joined the cast of Captain America 4, currently titled Captain America: New World Order. She will be reprising the role of scientist Betsy Ross, and Ross is the daughter of General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, who was played by the late William Hurt in several films, and will now be
Hmm.
portrayed by Harrison Ford in this new installment. Uh, of course, funny because we're coming up on the 15th anniversary of the Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man as well. I mean, that would be a fun one
Yeah,
to revisit. Just like that's the birth of the MCU right there. And I'm
that's right.
watching. I think I've told you about this show before, but Icons on Earth, right? They talk about they've done The Simpsons before and the Fast and Furious franchise.
Yes.
They're doing Marvel right now, and they actually just covered Iron Man and Incredible Hulk, and man, did that have a. I realized that Hulk that Ang Lee directed had like a troubled production because
Mm,
Ang Lee directed it. I mean, I love Ang Lee; he's a good director, but he directed Hulk as if
yeah.
it was like an auteur independent film. It was less like
Uh,
uh, that was more like cerebral and like less Hulk smash. And I think like Kevin Feige, they said knew that going into like doing the Incredible Hulk that they wanted to like have it less of that and more action. Edward Norton had
ah,
other intentions. I guess
yes.
he wanted a more cerebral movie. It was interesting to listen to some of those interviews because like a lot of that stuff that was like alleged or did he do this or did he do that? They backed up a lot of like kind of stuff he was doing on set. I mean, some of them said he was difficult. Others said he was
I've
passionate. I
heard
think he was
that.
passionate about
Passionate.
it.
Okay.
But I mean, him as the director actually were on the same team as far as like this is the kind of movie we want to make. And then it was Kevin
Okay.
Feige. It was Kevin Feige and or mainly Kevin Feige, who was like, hey, like they were shooting Iron Man and Incredible Hulk almost around the same time, so they were like,
Right.
uh, and the Incredible Hulk was like the marquee character of the two, like that was the one that people knew more than Iron Man. So I guess Kevin
Right.
Feige was like, this needs to do well because like they were talking about how like Marvel at before the MCU and all that almost bankrupt at one point. Like they were at a rough
Yeah.
spot at one point, so they were gonna owe a lot of people a lot of money if these movies didn't do well. So Kevin Feige, they said that was the first time that they saw someone that was like a producer that was so involved in like the filmmaking process on that particular movie, and
Oh,
so it was just interesting. It was interesting to kind of get all the details about it because I I've always heard that stuff of legend with Edward Norton. It's just like, oh, he's
I haven't heard any
difficult.
specifics about his antics on set. I just know that he's notorious for being difficult to work with, probably a little bit of a neurotic sort of character
Yeah,
guy. But I haven't heard any like as far as like anecdotes or specifics about his behavior on set of
yeah.
the Incredible Hulk. I would love to. I have to check. I keep meaning to check that out. I just wrote down another reminder myself to check out Icons on Earth because that sounds like something right up my alley.
Yeah, it's so good. And it's kind of cool too. Like someone like Liv Tyler is probably not waiting for her phone to ring from them. Like it's like it was a fun.
No,
It was like a fun thing I did 15 years ago. Like she probably didn't even think that they would even like ask her to come back. That movie,
right.
that movie didn't bomb. It wasn't like a huge hit either,
Ultra successful, right?
especially after Iron Man, because Iron Man made so much money, and then that's that same summer, or maybe a month later in June, actually, yeah, becomes the Incredible Hulk.
Okay,
It made money, but not like enough, like a lot. Uh, so she probably
right.
was like, all right, that was my little foray into the MCU. That was fun. And then like all these years go by, and all these other people are having fun in the MCU. She's like, oh, whatever, it's cool. And now she gets this
What's
like
the
call to be like, all right, cool. Like, you want to be involved in this? Probably like, hell yeah, I got time.
yeah, I've really been too busy lately. I don't think.
Yeah.
What's the next? Is it go Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and then Iron Man 2? I can't think of what's after the Incredible Hulk.
Oh yeah, so it was, and they actually shifted them. I talked about that on Icon. So it was Iron Man, Rebel Hulk, and then Iron Man 2. And they originally were
Okay,
gonna go. They were gonna do Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Thor, but they were so concerned by the reception from the Incredible Hulk, they were like, okay, we need to put the popular
go
one
back
back
to what
out there
works.
first, yeah, and then we
Fair
can
enough.
go into like Thor, Captain America. So they did switcheroo on that after Incredible Hulk didn't do as well as
That
they
ended up being a good
wanted.
call.
Well, it's a good talk, and like Iron Man 2 is not great. It's like it's definitely got some issues, and they talk about that too, where it's
Right,
like John, it was a setup for the Avengers. It's not the most self contained story of standalone movies, because you got to throw in like Scarlett Johansson, you got to throw in Samuel L.
right,
Jackson's Nick Fury, you got to
right.
set up more Easter eggs with Coulson, and like talking about setting up the Avengers. Like it's a setup
Hmm.
movie for sure.
Time.
And one that John Favreau they admit had no control over, because that was another thing where they were like, hey, we got a lot to like set up, and so
Right.
this
Here's
is
what you're
our
putting
movie.
in your movie.
This is
Yeah.
our movie now. But yeah, good for her. I mean, I'm kind of excited. Like, I mean, it's cool to have Anthony Mackie as a new Captain America.
Yep.
I think Harrison Ford at this point in his career is just like, I'll just do whatever's fun, I guess. So having him in the MCU
I'm
movie is kind of interesting.
surprised he joined on to that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did not
like
expect that casting choice
doesn't it
or
seem like it's
news.
something that he wouldn't do? Like he wouldn't be like, oh, I don't want
A
Marvel.
100%. I was shocked. He didn't even want to be in Star Wars in the prequel. He was like, "Please kill my character.
Character off.
Please kill me off."
Yeah,
But let's just join this other huge franchise. Like
yeah,
instead, I was just very surprised.
yeah. I was
But
too.
yeah, I mean, he's a good replacement if there's going to be one for William Hurt. Harrison
Yeah,
Ford is top notch. So,
yeah.
and he's
I
doing
agree.
indie again. Like clearly,
Yeah,
he's conflicted about what
I
he
know.
wants to do for work.
I know.
But
No, and not a spring chicken either, dude. Not a spring chicken.
no,
What's
80
80?
whole
That's cool though. I mean, at least it seems like because he seems like such a begrudging in interviews, but I think he's not. He's one of those people that's like his time is valuable. I think that's what I think that is kind of what it comes down to.
right.
Because like in my mind, it's like, how can you be in so many fun movies, but then kind of have like he comes off kind of gruffy a little bit, like kind of like I'm not fun.
He's a
Like
grouchy grandpa.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're Indiana Jones, you're Han Solo, like you're some of the coolest like movie characters ever.
yeah.
And then like, and I see certain interviews where it's just like he's just not fun. But I guess
No,
when you get a certain age, you're like, the press stuff, like all the stuff you have to do like for a film is like not the fun
probably
part.
tiring. No, exactly. I
Right?
commend him for putting. He's still putting out a lot of work in his later years. Still
Yeah,
very much involved in filmmaking. So good for him. That's awesome. But I mean, yeah, at what point are you gonna enjoy retirement, Harrison? Man, like you're
yeah,
20 years away from 100 years old. Take some
yeah.
time to yourself.
Enjoy
But
being married to Calista Flockhart. Let her do some work.
yeah,
Let
that's
her get
another.
back at it.
Another point. Another point thinking about him being cast as Thaddeus Ross is how far does that role go? Like why not cast
Oh, that's
somebody a little
true.
bit closer to like even 10 years younger, 15 years younger, like we can get a little bit more longevity out of them because Harrison's not going to be doing this role
Yeah,
forever, and how much longer is forever with him, you know what I mean?
I agree.
Interesting. Yeah, but
But yeah, I mean, I get it though. I mean, it's a big name. I mean, them to get. I mean, I
big
can
shoes to
understand
fill.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just understand. Like, I think it gives the project a little bit more like it's like a little bit more legitimate now, because it's like, oh, like now you got him involved. Uh,
Right.
he adds a little prestige. to it.
What's one more A-lister in the MCU, right?
I know, and a nice paycheck probably. So
No doubt. What is speaking of which, what is New World Order's release date? Is it 2024, 2023?
Let me look quick.
It can't be this year. I don't think I've seen anything about it.
No, it's not this year. Where?
It's
May 3rd, 2024.
Okay.
So yeah,
still over a year. Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I'm interested in seeing what they do with it. I mean, with all the Marvel projects, I'm interested. You know, it's just that the foundation isn't as strong as it once was.
That's right.
Yeah, there's some legs are given out a little bit.
And who's directing?
Oh, that's a good question too. Let me see.
Because I mean, of this year, again, we know, or I've said before, especially to you on and off camera, I'm not like the biggest like comic book / MCU, guy, but of the series that I've seen, Captain America ones do stand out. Like those are consistently among my favorites. So I'm on board for 4 for the most part, as much as I can be. Be interested to know who's behind it.
Yeah. So Julius Ona is directing. He's a Nigerian American filmmaker and occasional actor as well. I do what I do love about Marvel is that they do have really interesting like director choices. Like they actually give chances to like not necessarily big name directors and like kind of lets them play in their playground a bit. And it's kind of interesting that they do that. I think a part of that
is interesting.
I think part of it could be too because you can maybe control a filmmaker or than you could like an established filmmaker. Like that is a machine, and it's not all of their input. So like they need someone that they kind of rein in. But I still think it's kind of cool though that they still do that because they can easily
interesting. I think
go for big names.
It's worked in their favor before, but it's also worked against them. Like I'm thinking Chloe Zhao being handed the Eternals. I mean, yeah, she won. She directed the Best Picture winner the year before the Eternals. That makes sense. She's at that point reached this acclaim. However, Nomadland was like a lower budgeted, like pretty grounded indie movie. And then they hand her like hundreds of millions of dollars to do this big, epic, CGI heavy action movie. That to me makes no sense.
Yeah.
But good that they gave her an opportunity and she was able to do that. But like, I think a little bit more curation around who they're putting in the director chair would have gone a long way for the Eternals. Cause I think that was just so drastically different than what she had done before. That's just an example that stands out to me. But Shane Black for Iron Man 3 is an interesting choice. That's one that I'm on board for.
Yeah.
Granted, it wasn't amazing, but that's a good person to give that movie to if it's not going to be Jon Favreau.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting too. Like, I mean, I know that Iron Man stuff is a Sony Marvel thing; they share it. But even getting someone like when they got John Watts to do like Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. I mean, like he did a great job with it. He was making much smaller movies, and
interesting. That worked good for him.
Yeah, and I know he was originally attached to do Fantastic Four, and I'm glad the reason that he gave for dropping out was a really good one, where he was like, he had been immersed in that Spider-Man world for years, and like he was like, I don't think I could give this other project that much justice after just kind of being involved in like these 3 really big movies. Like I don't think he felt like he couldn't give to it creatively what he could that someone else could that's like not as burnt out. Like he basically admitted to being like kind of burnt out. It's a lot of work, big movies like that, like huge, and they're probably a lot of pressure on the director to get them right. So I respect you. Like I'm gonna bow out and let someone else like do some good.
In hindsight, what a bullet he dodged with Fantastic Four, because that we know how that went down. You're talking about the Josh Trank directed one.
Oh no, he actually the one they're going to do newer one.
Oh,
that's coming out eventually.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was thinking you're talking about the one with Miles Teller and Kobe Jordan. Okay, I don't know if I knew. I don't know if I knew that there was going to be a new Fantastic Four. This might be news for me.
I think it ends.
I have a notoriously bad memory.
I think it ends whatever their last phase that they announced is going to be, and then.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly, but yeah, they, he was going to direct it, and then he dropped out. But he gave really good reason.
Well. Interesting that they're finally being brought into the fold in the MCU. That is a property that was bound to be put in there at some point. So interesting.
Right. Let us hold on. So we can actually circle back to our boy John Wick because
that's right.
Big box office, $73.5 million over the domestic opening, and I believe 137 or 138 global opening. Either way, it's the best opening of the franchise domestically and overseas. I went big, but I felt confident going big. I'm not mad that I was wrong. This is still a great number.
Right.
Uh,
Absolutely.
I said 80. Owen said 77 when we
That's right.
recorded together. And what was yours again?
I went 71, so just
71.
a couple million off.
So you're the closest, the host. But I mean, I would, and I guess, well, yeah, and Owen was pretty close too. A lot of
all of us
pretty
were
relatively
pretty close. Yeah, but that is a very impressive opening weekend domestically. And worldwide as well. Like very happy to have seen it do that, and doubt I'm sure it will go on to live and get much more money throughout its theatrical run.
Yeah.
And
by the way,
it's been getting awesome reviews.
Yeah, Owen also officially voted in the poll too, which I thought was funny. He's like, I know he actually already gave his answer in the questions. Like, I was like, you already gave it like the show. He's like, no, he was like an official. It's officially submitted. Right. Owen's opinions on Instagram said 77. Just in case you didn't hear it on the actual.
Okay.
The actual
it's
show.
Locked.
Nice.
What was everyone else saying?
Bardwell at Bardwell123 on this said 100 million worldwide. So I mean that's instantly close, I guess. With the movie said 80 million. Thank you, my boy. We're on the same page. Jack is cool, I guess 75 million. Donnie, I think Donnie predicted a 155 to 160 worldwide opening. That could have been feasible too. Really? My friend David Park, middle school, 78 million. And then Jordan score M85, 55 million. Movies we score love, 55 million. Drew review 77, 24 million. And Guy at the Movies responded with 81 million. So everyone's kind of like in the same like relative.
People are expecting big things, and that's exactly what we got delivered. So that's awesome.
And so I'm very happy that it lived up to expectations, both creatively for the viewers, also for the studio and the money they need to make from it. It's nice. It's nice to see good movies doing well.
It certainly is.
And I'm not gonna stay on this too long, guys, just only because we talked about the opening last week. Just be warned aware officially, because I think the actuals are out right now. John Wick did like a little bit better than I said, 73.5. Actually made 73.8 million after the actuals were released today.
Oh, okay.
Everyone, Shazam! Fury of the God is in third place. It dropped a staggering 69%.
Oh my goodness.
To $9.3 million. It is so far made 45.9 million domestic. Guys, if you're keeping score, Scream 6 is at number 4 right now. Yeah, it had a big drop, but horror movies always have big drops. It made $8.3 million over the It's out for a bit. It made $8.3 million over the weekend. Scream 6 has outgrossed Shazam! Fury of the Gods domestically. $89.8 million so far for Scream 6. And honestly, globally, it's made $139.2 million to date so far too. So good for you, Scream 6. Anticipating that Paramount to go along with that Vertigo news is going to be like, yo, here's Scream 7, guys.
There you go. I'm sure that's imminent.
I'm pretty sure that has to be coming soon. But yeah, that's crazy that Shazam.
Is Shazam going to lose money? Do you think?
Oh yeah, it's budget is $110 million. They said that
10. Okay, I thought it was 100.
And that was the first one. The first one was 100 million. Second one 110.
And
that doesn't even include the marketing spend on that. So
it's losing big.
It's losing big money. Yeah. So
hopefully the Flash can recoup some of that. I still have a feeling that the Flash is gonna do well at the box office because so many people are saying it really is good. But I'm sure DC execs are counting or like wishing on lucky stars right now that it brings in as much as they need it to, because that is a huge loss for Shazam 2. And not something that studio wants right now. I can't afford.
And who would have thought that we'd be coming up on a time where all the March releases, because this is a really busy month for movies. I unfairly was like, you know what? That Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, that one on March 31st is going to be the one you need to forget about. I was like, that can't be good, right? Reviews are amazing right now.
Okay.
Like, really, really good. I have no real frame of reference on how to predict this one because I don't really know what to compare it to as far as like, similar movie, maybe box office wise. But the reviews here are the selling point this weekend, because right now, as of this recording, the movie is 90% fresh with 89 reviews counted so far.
Wow.
I did not see that coming at all. There have been some early...
Yeah.
There have been some early screenings of the movie so far, so it also has an audience score because there has been some early showings or screenings for it. 94% audience score so far on Rotten Tomatoes.
Damn.
this might be a case where it's just like reviews and good word of mouth could actually help this pretty big this weekend because it is opening on Friday. To ask me on like March 1st, I would have lowballed this.
Percent.
But
I'm with you.
today, no, I'm not. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be huge. It's not gonna be a huge opening. Like not like
No.
not like on the John Wick level, but I think that
Lots of good movies out in theaters right now. It's competing with, but
yeah, for what I've heard, that say it's like a really fun comedy, and they say it has really a solid like emotional core too. They say all the characters are very fun and interesting. All the cast works really well together. Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez are getting like really good notices for it. Say that they have a really good kind of rapport with each other in the movie. It's like really fun.
right.
Yeah, I mean, this is my only concern because we were just talking about long movies. This movie is 2 hours and 14 minutes. That seems very
that
long
now too. That is a little bit lengthier than it needs to be for sure, but we'll see how the pacing and stuff goes.
Yeah.
It's rocking a 75 meta score as well right now. Like that's pretty good as well. And apparently it's not been that big of a deal.
Yeah,
holding people back from enjoying it. So,
all right. So
based
on
box office wise,
I know it's not.
I got a number in mind, but
it seems
I think
low. It seems low, but I think like it'd be one of those things where that's a decent opening, and maybe word of mouth can like kind of keep it around for a while, where it pulls in like decent amount of money. I'm too afraid to go too high. That's because I don't know. Even though the reviews are great, I never played the game. I don't know how many. There could be a ton of fans out there that are eyeing to see it, and I just don't know.
It has a pretty strong fan base, like the board game. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons at all. Never even seen a game of it, so I have no idea.
All right, I'm gonna go.
What are you thinking?
35.
I had 37 written down, so I'll stick with that based on what you said. I didn't know where you're gonna go, so that's pretty close.
Yeah, so 35 million from me, 37 from our boy Jackson.
That's right.
When you tune in again, probably like they were wrong again. And I'm saying it's really fun how like sometimes we're just so off.
No,
but we have the best of intentions when guessing it. I think about all the factors like reviews and like early word of mouth, and
there's a lot of variables that go into guessing box office for sure. It's not easy by any means, and
we are not box office analysts how any means.
No, exactly. Hey, maybe I'm impressed with how close we were with the John Wick opening. Like that was pretty bad to even be within a few million. To be within less than 10 million of the for a movie like that is like kind of impressive. So let's see how it holds up in a week. But I'm expecting big things. I'm sure John Wick is gonna have a strong second weekend as well.
Yeah,
so that might take some money, but we will see.
All right, guys. Well, as usual, throw us your we throw the thing up poll. We're gonna ask you what your predictions are, and then we'll read it on the episode after when we cover the box office on Monday. I imagine like all these guys are gonna be all over the place though, because I don't think anyone knows how to gauge it.
No, I'm sure we'll see a big eclectic amount of answers all over the place.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun one. I'm hoping for the best. I am at this point wasn't sure about seeing it, but it's gotten. I mean, the early word is so positive that I was like, all right, I gotta at least check it out and see. Concerned about the runtime, but like I still think I might go see it.
Yeah, you let me know if it gets a positive reception from you. I might make the time to go see it. I know I'm some stuff I want to get in here soon, but
I love the pause. Like, yeah, you let me know.
Just being straight up. Yeah. But next,
rush it out.
Yeah, we still got an exciting April to look forward to as well.
Yeah, we do.
But speaking of reading and online, wanted to take this moment before we wrap things up to shout out a newsletter that I'd come across recently. I was just telling Gaius before we started recording. I don't know where or who put me on this. Somebody sent this my way, or maybe I got an ad. But more or less, long story short, I got this or came across this newsletter lately. It had been an Instagram ad, and the name of the newsletter is Please Consume, which I think is kind of hilarious. It is like a quick 4 to 5 minute read sent to your inbox on weekdays, and it is all about movies. I've only been a subscriber for about a week now, so I've seen about 5 of these newsletters, and today was all about Adam Sandler and just like his career, and they took a big shining to Wedding Singer, which is one of his that I haven't seen, one of his earlier comedies.
I love that movie. It's like my favorite.
I really got to see it.
My favorite because I like Adam Sandler when you kind of got rein him in a little bit. I've never been a fan of like
Billy Madison him and Drew Barrymore together.
Yes, and that was the first
dates. I love by him.
And that was the first movie they did together, and their chemistry is like solid. It's a really funny movie. I think it is one of his best, if not his best comedy.
It's one I'm gonna carve out to see, especially considering what I saw with this. So this newsletter, they show some shots of it, they talk about it, and they're actually pretty edgy. Like they swear in it, like they've used the F-bomb, they've have some pretty cool like jokes that I thought were actually pretty adult oriented. So it's you get a good laugh or a chuckle between the read. And again, I'm pretty new to it, but I've enjoyed what I've seen. It is very much tailor made for cinephiles. At the end, as far as I've seen, with all the ones that I have this week, they throw in a link to a scene and they kind of break down and talk a little bit about a scene from the movie that they're talking about. And in this scene, I know that you'll probably appreciate this knowing that you've seen it. I hadn't. But the scene that they attached the video link to was regarding the scene in The Wedding Singer when he's singing that song, like "Somebody Kill Me," where he's like playing the guitar. Oh my god, dude, that scene was hilarious.
Yeah,
that was great.
It's a funny part. It's a yeah. Just took me back a little bit. Yeah, it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
I was like, that is something that I know I would have like cried laughing at if I was watching on the screen. So like, it just elevated that movie up a little bit for me. But yeah, go check it out. I just tested it out myself to remember how I subscribed. I just Googled "please consume." You plug in your email and then they'll start sending you the newsletter in the morning. And it's like been a pretty good read if you appreciate movies and want to, experience a little bit more in your day to day. It was highly recommended from Jackson. So go check out "please consume." And now I'm going to go check out "The Wedding Singer" next time I come across it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, for sure. And we'll link it that underneath the description for this episode, so you guys can
good idea
find it easily. And before we have Jackson do the outro, I'm gonna give a really quick shout out to playlists because we released 3 episodes last week. It was Monday. The Scream one dropped on Monday, and then the John Wick one that had all 3 of us on together for the first time, like me, Owen, and Jackson, that dropped midweek. And then we had our deep dive one with Owen, that I'm on with Owen, dropped on Friday. And the emails I did back and forth with them was like, hey, these are the days I want to put them out there. I know it's a lot of content, but hopefully it works. And what they have done, and what they've done the entire time that we've been doing this, is they're like, you pump out as much material as you want. And that's not the issue. Like, we love your content. We love what you guys are doing. If you give us enough time to like edit the episodes and get them right the way you guys want them, you can drop as many as you want. And so I think that's really cool that they did 3 different episodes. I actually listened to them in a row, and got a lot of. I got a message on G-Reels about the John Wick one, especially because they were like, it's cool that nice. Like Owen and Jackson never met before that. They were like, you have never guessed it from the conversation. They said that everyone sounded like, everyone already. I mean, of course I've known you a while now, but like,
of course,
it felt like really, like a cohesive discussion. It didn't seem like one person was to talk over the other, and like, it just gelled really well. It gelled really well, and then like, they really liked deep dive this week. So I do want to shout out to them because I know it's probably a lot of work, and they have other shows too, so not their only one.
Right.
But yeah, because I just looked at my phone, like we actually recorded an episode before we did one with Owen. That dropped today. I was like looking at my phone, and it popped up on my Apple Podcast notification. I was like, and they were really cool about like holding that one until the beginning of the week. I was like, what was more gonna be more important was gonna be like coinciding with the John Wick stuff, or like the stuff we talked about on that other episode. But I don't know, they just get things done in a really timely manner. They're like, this is your show, your world, you're building it.
That's right. Big part of what we do.
Yeah, they don't get involved in like the creative part of it. They're like, that's all on you guys. Whatever you guys want to do. They're happy with the show. I'm really happy with the show too. It's just like biggest comment is the biggest comment is they were like the last month or two, everything's just moving and it's gelling and like so it's great. So I want to give them that credit because they do a lot of heavy lifting that we don't do. So like.
Very much so.
So thank you guys. That's a lot of content to kind of go through.
Very much so. The show is what it is in a major part thanks to them, and of course you, Gaius, lining all this stuff. So yeah, thanks a lot, players. We appreciate hard work behind the scenes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, with all that being said, I think we got everything out that we wanted to today. Man, that was key on paper what we were going to discuss before. I didn't know that it would take. We had so much. Many points came up. It was great. Lots of stuff to bounce off each other. It was great. Nice to have another busy news week. I'm sure next week will be very much the same. Until next time, guys, if you're still listening, thank you very much for supporting our podcast and for joining us for another week on Back to the Blockbuster. We love it. now, you know where to find us. But if you're just joining, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, Good Pods, and Google Podcasts as well, wherever you guys listen. And thanks again for tuning in, guys. Gaius, as always, my friend, always a pleasure. And we'll be chatting throughout the week for more stuff. Looking forward to next week, man.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Peace.